Welcome to the segment, What is Marketing Execution? What is marketing execution? Well, it's another version of Nunnopi. Whereas we learned about Nunnopi from a conceptual standpoint, in this segment, we will understand it from a very practical standpoint. And so execution also is Nunnopi. It's how we reduce the gaps, whether it's at the domestic level or at the international level. Okay, and we do it through these various weapons. I call them weapons because it's like having the four branches of the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. In marketing, we too have these different branches, and we call them the 4 Ps, or the marketing mix. So I will explain using this company, Starbucks, how one company, but it doesn't have to be just Starbucks, but other coffee chains adjust the Nunnopi to their various consumers. And again, this could be at the domestic level or at the international level. So coffee houses. Let's start with product. And there are many different ways in which a product can be varied. And it can be based on the type of coffee. It can be based on sort of the ingredients. And here in Asia, especially in Southeast Asia, there's something called kopi luwak. And it's a very sort of unique kind of coffee, which is produced by collecting the droppings of these civet cats. And they're very expensive. So it can be that extreme, but I think most other coffees are much less expensive and a little more mundane. So you have choice in terms of the kind of coffee that you may demand. It could be varied in terms of the kind of personalization that you want, and that's why you have baristas manning these coffee makers in coffee chains. And it could also be varied in terms of the additional kind of non-coffee items that a consumer may demand. And that could be very localized, because even though coffee may be served everywhere, in terms of the other menu items, that too can be locally adapted. In terms of price, I showed you one particular size of a product. And so there's a high correlation between price and product, whether it's size or whether it's by the type of coffee that I mentioned. And it could be varied by the target segment that you're aiming at. And so I think a lot of people are surprised when they come to Asia and find that coffee in Asia may be more expensive than back home. And that, again, is because of the different targeting of the segment here in Asia. And related to that is the much higher brand positioning. In terms of place, and I think that's where a company like Starbucks has pioneered many different kinds of place strategy, whether it's having more stores, more central stores, also having a different kind of aesthetic by different neighborhood. And that's because of them trying to adhere to their third place brand concept, where they want to create sort of this not work, not home, but this sort of place where you can escape to and relax kind of store. And so it demands that they try to, again, localize to the neighborhood. And this is true not only in their home market, but also true in their foreign markets, such as here in Asia, where they've had to, again, vary their aesthetics in terms of not only the interior, but also their external signage. And more coffee chains are experimenting with newer types of delivery systems, such as a drive-in, convenience being added. And also in terms of promotion, I think the message can vary by country. In some countries, it could be much more on the experience, whereas in other countries, it could be much more about the coffee. And that variation can also take place in terms of the kind of media that's used. And Starbucks, of course, prides itself as having not used mass media. So that could be a strategy that works in some countries, but in other countries, other coffee houses may want to either use mass media or try to use newer media or even social media, because having a presence there is becoming that much more important. Okay, so wrapping up, I think in this segment we learned that marketing execution is as important as the marketing concept, and they both have to adhere to the 눈높이 principle. And execution is much more about how we actually do it. And we do it through the 4 Ps or the marketing mix. So there are many different kinds of things that we can use to enable us to match that eye level or 눈높이. And even in the international marketing context, that is what the 4 Ps help us to do, to really sort of become much more in tune with what the local market is demanding.